What's good, CK Crew? It's your boy CK2K. Welcome back to another video. Now, people, the Knicks season has just begun. You know, on this channel, we talk about the Knicks whenever they give us something to talk about, whether there's a trade, whether this player is not playing well, whether we need to fire Thibodeau or something else. We're always talking about it here on this channel. What if in an alternate reality, I was the one that controlled the conversation? What if instead of you talking about fire Leon, y'all was in the comment section talking about fire CK, or y'all be proud because CK brought y'all a championship? There's gotta be another universe out there, or another world, like on like some Marvel type. What if I ran the Knicks in another universe? The New York Knicks season is beginning, and I am in my first year as a GM here. And here, the owner expects immediate results. After some success last season following the signing of Jalen Brunson, the management before me made some changes to cater to our new star. They decided to extend Josh Hart and re-sign Ryan Arcidiacono, as well as bringing in another Wildcat in Dante DiVincenzo. It's obvious that their plan was to make Jalen happy, and I get that. Jalen Brunson was arguably our best player last year, even though he was snubbed in the All-Star voting. And with the uncertainty of Julius Randle's future, we gotta make sure that we are making the current star, Jalen Brunson, happy. Now, since I was handed the GM role due to whatever reason of the last GM leaving, I do worry about our lack of height and what that does for our 9-man rotation, since our head coach Tom Thibodeau wants to stick to a 9-man rotation after it working so well for him last year. Now, as you can see, our current lineup is very similar to the lineup we had last year. Not many changes made to the team, and with that, our power ranking is about where you'd expect us to be. But enough about the players. The more important thing when it comes to my New York Knicks is the fan base. And as you could always expect each and every year around this time, the fans are excited. There's excitement going around the city. Knicks fans alike, whether you're in the city or you're across the nation, or hell, even around the world, Knicks fans are excited about what's to come this year. There's a lot of optimism, especially after the run that we had last year. What are we going to see from RJ Barrett in his 5th year? Is Julius Randle going to continue to lead us? Is Jalen Brunson going to take that next step? There's a lot of questions that I have to consider when it comes to this New York Knicks basketball team. I mean, New York hasn't seen a championship run since the 1970s, and my goal is to hope that we can bring something different over here. I know in your universe, you know me as this goofy YouTube guy that talks about the Knicks and says things like this. I really wanted to come in here, make a joke about that video of Josh Hart.
Hey, yo, what the f?
But here in my universe, I've spent my entire life around basketball. I started as an intern, then turned into a scout. Then I was an assistant GM, and then poof, just like that, when the door opened, my favorite organization hired me and put me in the role. But here I am, 2023, and I'm the new GM of the New York Knicks, and hopefully for the foreseeable future. And the foreseeable future has us playing against the Boston Celtics. And again, as I mentioned with the same Knicks fans, there's a bit of skepticism when it comes to this game, because the Boston Celtics are already built as one of the best teams in the NBA. And our Knicks team, there's a lot of question about what we're going to be like going into this season. But nonetheless, we have our first game against the Boston Celtics in our lovely Madison Square Garden. And this opener would not be a walk in the park, as plays like that would be the theme of this game, as well as plays like that by Jason Tatum. 17-12 was the beginning stretch, and this was the first timeout from Tom Thibodeau. But that would not be enough, even though the Knicks would try and fight back in the first quarter. Nice alley-oop there from Quentin Grimes to Julius Randle in his brand new Skechers. It still wouldn't be enough, as they would go into the second quarter down 33-11. Jason Tatum was hot. He's having a great start to the game with damn near almost 20 points, and Jalen Brunson had a hard time finding his shot. But would this be the theme of the game? Because in the second quarter, RJ Barrett started to lead the pack as the team tried to make a comeback going into halftime. Jalen Brunson also adding a few points of his own with a floater like this one right here. And the Knicks would fight back to only be down by 13 points going into the half. Here's Tom Thibodeau.
Thanks very much. Tibbs, going against a high-powered offense like this, I know you have your work cut out for you at the defensive end.
Yeah, they're tough to guard. They put a lot of pressure on you. You can't make body position mistakes. We got to make sure we try to make them work for the points.
We'll see if you can be more effective in the second half. Thanks. Back to you guys.
And they wouldn't. No matter how much they fought, the Knicks would ultimately still lose this game by 15 points, 108-93 in the opener against the Boston Celtics. Well, that didn't go the way I wanted it in my first game as a New York Knicks GM. But as I mentioned earlier on, watching from my seat, there's just a few things missing when it comes to this team. I like the chemistry that's going on with our Wildcat bunch, but players like RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, I need them to be the guys that are going to be a main key next to Jalen Brunson in our run. During our first practice after our first loss, I did get a phone call from Pistons GM Troy Weaver. The same problems that I told you guys about, it seems like other GMs around the league and other teams around the league are seeing the issue that we may have. And Troy Weaver was calling about some of the guards that we have in a swap for the big men that they have. Now, the Pistons, if you do not know, the Pistons have an overabundance of bigs on their team. James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, Jalen Duren. They're all over the place. So you can see why they're willing to get rid of at least one of those names to get one of the many guards that we have. As you'd expect, Troy was calling looking for the likes of Quentin Grimes or Josh Hart. What do you think I did with that phone call? No, I didn't hang up immediately. I did hear some of the offers he was looking for, but none of them were what I wanted. If you're looking for a guy like Josh Hart or a guy like Quentin Grimes, I'm hoping that I can get in return someone like Jalen Duren, but he wasn't flying with that, and Jalen Duren has been having a good start to the season for the Pistons, so the conversations died down after that. Well, following that, we moved forward to Atlanta, where we unfortunately got our second loss of the season, putting us at 0-2. Now, Julius and Jalen led the way in this game, but RJ and IQ had a rough one. But luckily in that second game of a back-to-back, we had Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans. But no matter, we managed to come out and win that game, putting us at 1-2. But a 1-2 start in New York isn't the same as anywhere else. Because as you'd expect, Knicks Twitter started throwing blame all over the place. But the big key that came out of these games for me is I'm just not a fan of our rotation. I'm not a fan of the overabundance of guards. I know what the previous GM was looking for when it came to the team that he constructed, but I needed to make a change. So I called back an old friend. After a back and forth conversation with Troy Weaver, we decided to come to even ground. Unfortunately for me, and I'm sure with the amazement from a lot of Knicks fans, I did have to give up one of our newest signed players in Dante DiVincenzo, who has been playing pretty solid for us. But I had to give him up in order to jettison one of our other bigger contracts, Evan Fournier. So in a move that set Evan Fournier, Dante DiVincenzo, and a protected pick. In return, we got the former number 2 overall pick, Marvin Bagley III. Now, before you are booing me through your screen, understand this. Marvin Bagley has gone through a series of injuries throughout his career, coach after coach after coach, and he has not been able to find his home yet in his very short but seemingly long tenure in the NBA. Something that worked so well for us last year was the combination between Obi Toppin and Julius Randle, as the two of them played 2 completely separate games. And I'm hoping to get something similar with that as we help Marvin Bagley become the player that he wants to be and that we want him to be, but knowing his role that he's going to be pretty dominant for us on that second unit. So expected, there's a lot of skeptics when it comes to this move, but I really feel good about this. We freed up some cap space, as well as we brought in a very needed position for this team. So only time will tell. And lucky for us, he passed his physical and he'd be able to play for us immediately in our next game as we go up against the Cleveland Cavaliers in our first of a back-to-back series with them. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be enough as we dropped that first game against the Cavs, and it would be our 3rd loss of the season, putting us at 1-3. But the beauty of the NBA is sometimes you get your lick back sooner than later. And we beat the Cavs the following night, putting us at 2-3 for the season. Now, Bagley had a smaller role, so I wasn't expecting too much from him, but we saw some good play from Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Jalen Brunson. And 2-3 isn't where we wanted to be, but it's not terrible for the kind of games that we had up to this point. When I say up to this point, I'm talking about our first game of this brand new in-season tournament that the league has introduced for the first time this year. Yep, that's even going on here in our universe. We'd have our game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see how this one goes.
We addicted to fast cars, bad bras, late nights, last calls, alcohol, bad bitch scrolling through the phone log. Hit 'em up, all my niggas pick 'em up. We bout to have a time tonight. Sure you keep that burner tuck, cause niggas like to creep low. Say motherfucker the PO and the judge. But if they come with us, just know it's love. I'm saying just because. Yeah. Cause we been coming from welfare, medical, healthcare. Living in the hood is hell here, hell yeah. I'm saying just because. Love.
Now that you can't write. And Marvin Bagley looked good in the first night of him getting some pretty solid minutes. It's a good mesh of guys. I'm really happy with the team we got going on, but it's only been 2 weeks into the season. That is the exact kind of game that I was hoping that this team would show, and especially in a game like this, where it puts us in a good spot for this brand new in-season tournament. I'm ecstatic. We have the Clippers coming up on Monday, and we know where their stance is in the Western Conference. But at 3-3 and 1-0 in the in-season tournament standings, I'm pretty happy with where we started, but we have a long way to go.
Cold pizza Tuesday. I got food up in the fridge. Y'all keep looking for that new wave. I think I like it how it is.